First of all, let's be clear about something. This is a long-term plan. What I'm discussing on this channel is not a get-rich-quick, trade in and out of the markets. This is a steadily buy in on a regular basis, once a month, or whatever you can do. Just continuously buy in to a position in real money and hold it for the longer term. Now, there's going to be a point where you're probably going to actually use your gold and silver to buy stuff with, because this whole credit debt-based monetary system we're on, this 40-year experiment, is going to come to an end. And I believe we're going to be back on some type of sound money system. It has to come. This just can't go on. Money has always been a measurement of weight, and we're going to get back to that. We just got sidetracked, and it's going to be a lot of problems and suffering, and that's just what we got to go through. And they're just blowing it up even bigger and bigger. But all money's debt, and there's not even enough money to pay off all the debt, because there's interest on all the money that's been created, and so it can't even all be paid off. But anyhow, there's, the debt's just getting unmanageable now. You see what's happening over in Europe. Bond rates are going up. So, it's just a matter of time. I believe the derivative market, which is all side bets and gambling on all this funny money, is 1.4 quadrillion, something like that. Just totally unimaginable amount that, could just very easily bring down the system. So, let me turn this around here. So what I really wanted to talk about was what's happening with gold and silver. I'm sure that some people have got some friends or family involved, maybe kind of late, maybe last year, and silver reached 49 and change, and gold hit 1920, and they're down 15 or so percent. Gold is, and silver's what, 40% off of that. And so people who got in, like some of my own family members, or I feel like they know. I've been preaching for so darn long. They understand what I'm talking about with real money and monopoly money. But it's easy, to get in on something and you're just like, man, 40% drop. I mean, 30-40% drops. Like, am I doing the right thing here? Make sure that you're clear on the fact that this is a long-term plan. Now, we are a long way from even getting where we were in 1980. And that's really what I want to explain. Back in 1980, I'm going to use round numbers to make this easy. I know gold went over 800, but we're going to say it reached 800 and silver reached 50. Now, I don't know a whole lot of things that you can buy cheaper now than you could back in 1980. Especially things you could buy at 10% the cost they were in 1980. Something that cost 10 times more in 1980 than it does now. That's almost unheard of. So, it's hard for people to understand when they see gold at 16, 17, 1800, to see it as something that's cheap. It's $300 most of my life, $400 during the boom, during the after the last boom cycle of the 50s and 60s. I was born in the 70s, and we had a bust cycle. And then 80s and 90s we had a boom cycle again, expansion of credit, easy money. And then in 2000 started the bust cycle again. So we're in the bust cycle, and who knows how many more years of it we have left. But there'll be a time you probably want to be back into securities and financial instruments, but that's not now. Now you want to have gold and silver, and you want to have tangible assets. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. So gold and silver, or still extremely inexpensive when you look at them in terms of inflation. So inflation will tell the real story. But the inflation adjusted numbers you've probably heard are $2,400. If gold was adjusted for inflation, it has to go to $2,400 to reach the 1980 high. The silver has to go to like $150. I'm rounding all these numbers off, make it easy. Well, yeah, that's using the CPI the way it's figured now. But they changed it. They changed it in the late 90s. They've changed it with hedonic adjustments, substitutions, taking out food and energy. I'm not going to explain what all that is. It's just they've made changes so that it shows up being lower. What you really need to do is look at the inflation based on how it was calculated in 1980. And thanks to John Williams, he gives us that information. He figures it and puts it out on his website, shadowstats.com. And I saw, it was about 6 months ago, he came out with his figures based on the 1980 inflation, the way it was figured in 1980, the CPI index. Gold has to go to $8,000. I think he said $8,700, but I'm just round it off, rounding it down to 800, because I'm gonna make another point based on that. So round it down to 8,000. I mean, so 8,000 on gold and 500 on silver. So until we get to those numbers, we haven't even passed where we got to 32 years ago. It's just unimaginable what's really happening. But while the prices are being held down with the manipulation going on in the paper markets, which you try to explain that to people, they're like, what's this conspiracy nut talking about? I mean, it's all there. Anyone is to investigate it, your eyes would pop out of your head because you just wouldn't believe what's happening. So it's really hard to get people to understand, like with the whole Federal Reserve thing being a private institution, you sound like a conspiracy nut. Well, anyhow, so real quick, I just wanted to say that we got to see 8,000, we got to see 500 on silver until we get, just to get us above where we were in 1980. And what's really funny about these numbers is, you look at that 800, and you look at the 8,000, the 800 being the high in 1980, and the 8,000 being where we got to go now, and 50 for silver, and 500 now, it's about 10 times. Well, there just happens to be about 10 times the amount of currency been printed since 1980. There was about $1 trillion, in the whole money supply back then. There's around 10 trillion now. Once again, these are rounded numbers. So for gold and silver to adjust to the amount of money that's been printed, 10 times the amount of money that was floating around back when they got to 850, we're talking $8,000 gold and $500 silver. So we have a long way to go, everybody, and good luck trying to explain that to somebody, but that's the truth, and that's what it is.